Thanks for jumping on board today. You're listening to The Tim Laskus Show. And yes, I'm Tim Laskus, and this is episode 32. And before I tell you about today's guest, people have been asking me, did you write a book? And my answer is yes. Back in 2007, I published a book titled Finding Your Costa Rica, 5 Powerful Steps to Personal, Professional, and Financial Success. It details how I went from being a goofball and graduating at the back of my high school class to later going on and getting my doctorate in clinical psychology and just living my dreams. And even in 2006, I said, see ya, sayonara. I sold my house, my cars, and everything I owned and moved to Costa Rica. People thought I was nuts. And that's all detailed in the book. And you can find it at Amazon or on my website at timlaskus.com. But anyway, let's get to the real reason you're here to listen to Kamila Gornia. And Kamila is a digital marketing strategist for modern, passion-driven entrepreneurs who want to get seen and get paid for what they're doing and what they love. She's been in the digital game for over 10 years, and she offers some great tips and advice and support. She offers coaching, Facebook ad management, and sales funnel campaigns. She is on this stuff, so you better listen up because you're going to learn. Enjoy.
The Tim Laskus Show, in search of entrepreneurial gold. Tim digs deep into the minds of his guests, entertaining, down to earth, and informative. Now, here's your host, Tim Laskus.
Hello, everyone. Today's featured guest is Kamila Gornia. Kamila, thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me, Tim. I really appreciate it. I'm very excited to be here.
Absolutely. Now, you were telling me that you've read about 20,000 books in your lifetime. Is that true?
Well, I don't know if 20,000 is the right number, but there's been plenty. Let's just say that.
No, you were saying that you love to read and create videos. Tell the listeners a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's funny because I didn't really like reading that much when I was younger. I mostly read comics when I was a kid. And then I started reading a lot when the summer between middle school and high school, because we were moving. So I was moving from Chicago. I was brand new. I just only lived in America for maybe a year and a half at that point. So we were moving, my family and I were moving from the city, Chicago, into the suburbs because my parents wanted me to not speak Polish as much with other kids. So I didn't know anybody and it was summer. I wanted to enjoy myself. So we had a really nice library and I basically read several books every week because I'm more introverted. I was very shy, especially in a new country, and speaking English was not my forte quite yet. So a way for me to get better at it was reading all the time. So I spent that summer, I don't even know how many books I read, but there was a lot. And ever since, I really fell in love with reading. So it's been pretty lovely.
Wow. How old were you when you moved to the United States?
I was 13.
13. Wow. That must have been much of a pretty big culture shock.
It was a little bit. It wasn't as bad as you think because at 13, we're still very adaptable, I would say. So it wasn't as hard. It was just mostly the language that was the most difficult. And just, I grew up in a small town in Poland, but just different types of people and not being communicate with everybody, not being able to say what you actually mean to say if you're talking to someone that doesn't speak Polish, because, I'm from Poland. So there was a little bit of that barrier, but a couple years in and, I was fine.
So you kind of migrated, I guess, to Chicago, where there's maybe a big Polish community initially, so that you kind of get adapted and also kind of have a connection to home?
Yeah, my dad actually lived in Chicago. He moved here when I was starting first grade, so I was about 6. And he was like, the plan was that he was going to come back. He was going to make money and then come back to Poland, but it wasn't going to happen. So we just ended up coming to join him, basically, my mom and I, when I was 13. So yeah, he came to Chicago because Chicago is actually, I don't know if you know this, but Chicago is actually the second largest population of Polish people outside of Warsaw. So it's the first outside of Warsaw, but it's the second in the world. So it's huge Polish population. And actually I have family, like other family outside of just my parents that live there. And my dad's brother lived there. So he came to work for my brother basically and kind of went from there. So my parents still live in the area now.
Oh, wow, that's cool. Well, on my dad's side of the family, they're from Lithuania, and so they had migrated to Chicago too. So there must be a big Lithuanian population there, I assume.
Probably. I mean, yeah, I knew a good amount of Lithuanians, Ukrainians, different, just Eastern European people.
Awesome. Well, we could have a whole show on that. I don't know much about Lithuania or Poland or any of that, but hey, you could teach us, I'm sure. But let's move on. Well, tell the listeners a little bit about your area of expertise and what do you do professionally?
Yeah, so I own a business. I'm basically I'm known as the blow up, scale up marketing strategist. So what I do is I help online based businesses, entrepreneurs, and people who want to be seen as authorities to get their marketing stuff in order and in place. And all of it mostly is driven by the online. So it's setting up, the Facebook ads and the sales funnels and launching new programs. And a lot of the people that I tend to work with tend to be service-based entrepreneurs. So coaches, consultants, different types of people. Some of my clients are e-commerce based as well, as long as they're education-based marketing. So content value based marketing, then I know you want to be seen as authorities, then that's also kind of my market. But yeah, marketing is my jam.
Yeah. Now you mentioned sales funnels. There may be some people out there who are going, sales, what the heck is a sales funnel? So can you break it down for us?
Yeah, so a sales funnel is basically a journey of when somebody that first encounters your brand, your business, what steps do they go through in order to become a buyer and then a repeat buyer. So that's just a fancy way of calling it that. And there's very specific ways that you can structure a funnel. In the online, people know it in the online in a very, very specific way. Like people opt in to join your email list, then they see some kind of a low cost offer. Then eventually you have them join a bigger offer, then a bigger offer, and so on and so on and so forth. So that's typically what we see in the online space. But a funnel is basically, every business has a funnel. It's just converting a stranger into a buyer and then a lifelong fan and an advocate. That's kind of what that is.
So the initial step is to kind of get their email address and give them something free. Like what are some of the things? I assume that's what a lot of businesses are doing. So what are some of the things that people offer potential customers in exchange for that email address?
Yeah, honestly, it could be pretty much anything. A lot of the times, when we call it lead magnets, because it's the person that opts into your list is a lead, and the thing that's getting them to opt in is magnetizing to them. So it's a lead magnet. So a lot of times the ones that are most successful and the easiest to get people to opt in are those that are very simple and provide some kind of instant gratification. So that would be something like a checklist or some kind of a guide or some kind of a report, maybe a case study. It really varies depending on the business. So it's kind of hard to generalize, but these tend to be the most successful. Even a quiz. So you've probably seen tons of quizzes out there. And in order for the person to receive the results, they have to give the email address. That's also a form of a lead magnet. Some people give away entire free mini courses. Others do free trainings or event tickets that for free. So, it's really kind of whatever you feel is aligned with what the next step is after that. And whatever your people would actually be excited about getting.
Wow, that's cool. And you said magnet. So just like a magnet attracting something.
Yeah.
So your magnet needs to be strong enough in order to attract them to put down their email. And not to be confused with, because you talked about magnetize and I started thinking of hypnotize. So you don't have anyone on there that hypnotizes them. Like, okay, watch my hand, go back and forth. Put your email in there, turkey.
Maybe you want to hypnotize your people. I don't know. Maybe if you're a hypnotist, then go for it.
Well, that I'm not, but maybe I could find one. We'll see if that works. We could start studying. That would be cool. So how do you know that they're working? And people may put a lot of effort and time and money into this, giving away stuff, but how do they measure it?
If people are opting in and people are then getting sales, it's working, right? That's pretty simple.
But I guess looking at percentages, because I always don't know, how many people may visit my website. I'm not real tech savvy. So
Okay.
maybe I don't know how many people visit my website.
Yeah.
And
So it's really important to track these kinds of numbers, because if you don't know the numbers, then you're never going to know if something's working or not. So tracking how many people are visiting the page that is inviting them to sign up for the opt-in. If it's a landing page where the only thing that page is doing is inviting people to join that list and get that specific thing that you're giving away, then that's called a landing page. And that is an extremely important number to look at. So ideally, it would be over 30%, so that 30% or so or more, ideally, of people that land on that page actually give you their email address.
okay, so
you're
for
getting
every
that
100, you should be getting at least 30, and that's a good number.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, some people would say 40, but I think 30 is okay too. It's going to depend on, a lot of different things in the industry a lot of times too. But I think anything above 30 is good.
Awesome. Okay. Well, good. Well, I'll start paying attention to that kind of stuff, because I'm not really into numbers, but I'll start looking into that.
Yeah.
But earlier, I saw something about a lot of information out there on Facebook ads. So what is it that you know about Facebook ads, and how useful are they?
I would say Facebook ads are very useful. I mean, I think it's really, again, it's a matter of how you're using them. If you're using them because Kamila is telling you that Facebook ads are effective, so you go and do that and spend like $1,000 just because I said so, without a strategy, I mean, it's probably not going to be very effective for you. So it's important that you have a strategy in place first. Like, why are you using these Facebook ads? Why do you need that extra traffic? Because all that Facebook ads do is just drive more traffic towards a page a lot of times. And you can get, you can get opt-ins from that. You can get purchases from that. You can get whatever. But it's important that you're aware of what it's supporting. Because a lot of times people kind of look at them as a strategy too, but it's really not a strategy. It's a tactic as well. So I think that's the biggest thing. But the people that have that strategy in place, those goals that they're looking to achieve, and they have a lot of times, number specific goals that they're looking to achieve, I think that Facebook ads can definitely support them in making that happen.
Well, let's talk about Ty Lopez, because that guy is everywhere. What the hell is he doing? How is he? He must be spending $1 million on Facebook ads, because he's on everything out there.
I will say that I don't tend to see his ads. So I think he's doing a good job advertising, because I am not a fan of his, and I don't really see his ads very much.
Well, yeah, people love him or hate him, but he's been known to do, the YouTube ads and Facebook and I guess
he probably spends a lot of money on ads. I mean, I know that he's big on YouTube too, which is a Google platform. So I know him or his team. I mean, I know that they're definitely spending a lot, because I've seen conversations about this before. So I mean, it's working for him. I don't really know his funnel, because like I said, I'm not his ideal client. I'm not his target. So I don't even see a lot of his ads necessarily. But he's clearly getting the people in. So. Must be spending
okay, if
a lot
he
of
hears
money.
this, he's not going to invite you to his next party.
Yeah, well, that's okay. I will survive. Let it be known, I will
Let's say that I have a good
survive.
magnet on my landing page, and I'm giving away something really good, and I want to place a Facebook ad in order to drive traffic to my website. What should I be prepared to spend? Like 100, 500, 1,000 in order to get any kind of good return?
Again, this is a very difficult question for me to answer, because I would say that you would have it. First of all, it depends on your industry. So some people are willing to spend $10 per lead, because they know that out of those leads, a certain percentage they already are aware of are going to convert into clients, and maybe they're very high ticket clients. So they're able to invest more versus less. So if you've never run Facebook ads, I would say that it's definitely a better idea to not invest a whole lot of money, because you're going to have to test a lot of different lead magnets and the processes that these people are going to be going through and seeing if they're working. So I would start with, as little as $15 to $25 per day. total for an ad campaign and see across a couple of different interests that you're targeting. Like you're targeting Tai Lopez in one, for example, or you're targeting, I don't know, Grant Cardone in another, and you're getting it out to people that have basically Facebook has seen that people specifically that like Tai Lopez are going to be seeing your ads, and you're targeting those particular people and you're split testing these different audiences and then seeing how they're performing. Again, depending on what the lead magnet is, some of them are more expensive, some of them are less expensive. Typically, anything that's more providing instant gratification tends to be easier to convert. So they tend to be a little bit less expensive ads. But in terms of how much, you're going to have to kind of test it and compare it for yourself. Because like I said, for my clients, and I tend to work with a lot of, like I said, coaches, consultants, people like that. So for them, a lot of times anything, I mean, it can vary anywhere from like 50 cents per lead or less even, which is very uncommon, up to maybe $4-5 per lead. And again, it's going to depend on what the offer is. It's a webinar. It's going to be more expensive. If it's a little checklist or cheat sheet, it's going to be less expensive. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, it sounds pretty complicated, and that's why people would hire you to do that, to go out and test and leave it to the expert, and don't try to fumble around yourself to do it.
Yeah, it takes a little bit of time, but I think people can definitely learn how to do it themselves. It's just a matter of having the patience and being able to test and look at the numbers and not get frustrated with yourself. Or, I have students, because we teach this stuff too. So I have students that are running ads and they're doing it for a day and then they're feeling frustrated because, they've only gotten a couple of leads. And you do have to have patience. It's either you have patience or you have more money to spend and you can do it faster. So that's kind of, the way that I like to look at it. If you want to test faster and figure out which ad audiences work better or which offers work better, well, you have to spend more money faster versus slower.
Well, I definitely don't have any patience. That's for sure.
Well, there you go. Know thyself.
So, you've been doing this for a while and you're the expert in the field and working as an entrepreneur. What are some tips just for other entrepreneurs who are thinking about starting their businesses, aside from marketing, that you could give them, people who are either on the fence or maybe just new entrepreneurs, something that you've learned along the way, a tip that maybe someone gave you or even a book that you read?
So I would probably say I'm going to give from my own experience, tips from my own experience, if that's okay. So I think the biggest thing, and some people talk about, okay, you're going to go and you're going to leap and you're going to have your own business and you're going to dedicate your full attention to it. And I think that's a good thing in theory. I do believe that for the most part, I would recommend for people to start their businesses on the side and see if it's a feasible idea and work towards replacing your day job income first and get close to that before you quit your job. Because a lot of times people get really excited, get really passionate without having really shown that their idea has any legs to stand on, or, it's actually going to be profitable. And I like risk, but I like to take calculated risk. And I didn't quit my job until probably less than a year into this current business, and this is my third business. So, I wanted to make sure that I was able to replace my income. My projected income was looking good, and at that point I quit. So I would say be cautious about it, be very passionate and excited, but also be realistic a little bit too, and know that it's going to take weekends and nights to work on it and really focus on bringing in the money versus focusing on just the branding or just the little things that aren't necessarily profit generating activities. Because for a lot of businesses, we don't need to have these elements in order for us to make money, especially service-based businesses. It can be really easy to just make a lot of money without having a whole lot of anything publicly even to show for it in terms of a website and things like that. So,
well, I think that's a big misconception people have that, I got to have the perfect kind of, brand and logo and I need to put 15 grand into a website and I need to hire all these people around me before they made a dime. And you're saying you don't need to do that at all.
Yeah, no, definitely. And again, it's going to be different if you have like an e-commerce business. I mean, e-commerce is like you need a website because that's how people are going to buy from you. But if it's service-based, the way that you're getting clients is talking to people on the phone. It's relationship-based. So that's really all you need to do. And I think spending a lot of money on a website when you're just starting out, or a brand when you're just starting out, is a big, I think it's a waste of money, because as you grow your business, as you're doing your business and working with clients, your brand and how you even think your business is going to look like is going to evolve, and not just once, but a couple of times. So until you've had that kind of experience of having this business and how it's running and who you're targeting, and you've really gone through it, and then you're really solidifying that clarity and like what that looks like at that point, and you're looking to up level, at that point I would look at spending more money. But it's not because you have to, it's because you want to.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense. And I also like initially how you started out and said, start your business on the side. You don't need to go out and burn the ships and just tell your boss to,
suck it.
And then find yourself on the street to really stressed out. Make a calculated risk and be able to project and get some money coming in at first, and you can be smart about it, and you don't have to just kind of cut all the ties with all your your traditional job or jobs.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. And I think that a lot of times, I mean, for people that are so passionate and they're so excited about growing their businesses and they really envision themselves being so successful, I think that, it's if it's meant to happen, it will happen. You just be consistent with it. And for people that don't have a lot of patience, I mean, it's unfortunate, because you're going to have to find some patience, because consistency is definitely key. And being consistent is really the way to success. It's not going to happen overnight, even though people that you might be following seem like they have come out of nowhere and they're all of a sudden super successful and it was an overnight success. That really takes many months and years to actually be created as an overnight success, if you know what I mean.
A lot of people think it's like winning the lottery. And some people do to become successful, but not starting a business, and it doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
But when did you first realize that you wanted to be an entrepreneur, and how did you get started?
Yeah, so I actually started my first businesses before I realized that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, which is kind of interesting. And they were side hustles. Like my first business was a photography business. I was 19 or 18, something like that. And, it was profitable, and I didn't really see it as a business. It was just kind of a thing that I was doing. And then I had a blog that was also profitable, and I was working with a lot of bigger brands. Also could be considered a business because I was making money consistently every month, but I didn't really see that as a business either. So it wasn't until I started doing some more like inner work, I would say, that I realized that a lot of things I have been doing were very entrepreneurial, and I had some kind of a block around seeing myself as an entrepreneur. I don't know what it was. It was just some kind of a block, and I had to see that and become aware of it. And then once I did, I was able to start owning the fact that, yeah, you know what, I am meant to be an entrepreneur, and that's what I've been doing all this time. So I might as well claim it. And it was before I started this business, which was, it was about 3 years ago.
Wow. And did you have a lot of support from family and friends?
So with friends, it was kind of, I didn't share it with too many friends, because my friends probably they weren't really taking me seriously. Let's just say they were just kind of like, okay, cool, Kamila's doing another little thing that she's been doing. And, I never really talked about money with them or goals with them. It was just a different mentality. So it wasn't that nobody really started taking me seriously until I started talking about quitting my job, and I actually quit my job. That's when people started to think, oh, Kamila actually is doing some cool stuff. Like, she's actually got her stuff like figured out, it seems like, even though I didn't. But, I was kind of, it was going well, but a lot of times, like, people were just like, oh, she's just, she has a little blog and she's talking a little bit about marketing, and like, oh, silly little Kamila, maybe she's doing some social media. And it's like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever you think, it's all good. My parents have always been very supportive of me, but some of my family still don't really understand. And, I'm not even trying to make them understand. I just do what I do, and I just love it. They can think whatever they want.
Yeah, for sure. And, and with, making money and as an entrepreneur, and it can be tough to, figure out, for some people, how to budget and how to save and where to spend it. And where did you learn about money? Did you learn about, money and saving and making it back in Poland, or did you learn more of that here in the U.S.?
That is a great question. Money was never something I was good at. No, it wasn't until I actually started this business and I was still not very good at money. And I needed to actually work with a business coach who started, because I was marketing focused. Marketing is actually not money making. It's sales is money making. Marketing is getting people to know who you are and making sure people remember you and, all that stuff. It's not making money. And I focus on making money. It was a huge shift. I'm like, yeah, I'll tell you how to make the money and it works. It was definitely a shift that I needed to make. And there was a lot of mindset kind of things, like blocks that I had around being able to make more money and how to manage the money and that, how to project income and expenses and all that good stuff. I mean, I started doing that a little bit when I had my 9 to 5, because obviously I was, making a salary and stuff, but it wasn't really... I remember one particular moment I was sitting outside of my apartment building with a friend, and it was back when I was a little party girl, and it was after some party that we went to, and I was sitting there, I'm like, how lovely it would be to make $50,000 a year. It would be so awesome. I'd be able to have an apartment. I just had no concept that $50K is not a lot of money. And then I started my business, and I was making right around there actually, about 45,000, I think, with my agency job. And I realized, okay, well, this is not a lot of money. And I needed to work with a business coach to make me start looking at money and facing the money and how to break through, income ceilings and do it several times. So it definitely wasn't something that came naturally to me. But once I started breaking through and recognizing that it's such an important part of business and growth, it definitely, became much easier. I mean, it's still learning. It's still like a process. It's every time that we have to break through an income ceiling and have a breakthrough, it's going to take a little bit of work. But I think with every little step, it definitely gets us closer to where we want to be.
Now, are there any cultural differences surrounding money in regards to Poland and the United States? And I say that because my wife is from Costa Rica, and in Costa Rica, people don't really save too much. It's about today, and people just kind of, if they have a lot of money, they kind of, people come to them and ask and give it away. They share with, family who don't have it. And so there's not a big sense of saving for tomorrow. It's about today. Whereas, in the United States, there is kind of a message out there that, oh, you need to save for retirement. You need to get ready for retirement. But that's not really how it is in Costa Rica. How is it in Poland?
I wish I had a better answer for you, but I think I was too young to really be aware of what the messages were, at least to the public, about money. I don't think there were very many messages. I mean, the messages that I was getting were that money is hard and having money is hard and that rich people are, these obnoxious people. And that was probably the biggest thing in terms of
they must be stealing.
Yeah, it must be stealing, right? It wasn't, I don't think debt was a big thing. Not many people had credit cards. We certainly didn't. It was, I don't really remember how it worked from that sense, but it was just, the biggest message was that, you have to work super, super hard to make money, and then it's all gonna, go towards your bills, and, you're never gonna be able to have money to play with. Like play money was not really a concept from what I remember. And I think here it definitely differs from, saving, and I think it is a little bit more conscious, but it's also more fear-based from what I noticed. It's that, encouraging people to go into debt, and like school systems. I mean, taking out student loans, and a lot of schools in Poland, like colleges and stuff. I mean, a lot of them are free, and you can get your free university education, and, people are actually, it's just different from that sense. So yeah, I mean, I think there are definitely cultural differences, but yeah, I wish I had a better answer for you.
Going to Poland to go to school. Free what?
Yeah.
Man, I would have gone there. I know my student debt from my doctoral program is, I came out of grad school with a mortgage, and I didn't even have a house, and so because that's about the size of that payment.
yeah, it's unfortunate.
It's just the way it is here.
Right.
People with have undergrad debt and graduate debt, and and my goodness, they have a huge hole to dig out of before they even really get going.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that can cause some stress. And speaking of stress, since you've gone out on your own and being an entrepreneur, what's been one of the most stressful situations for you, and how have you handled it?
Yeah, I think the most stressful things, I would say, whenever during launching, whenever I'm launching a new program, there's always like a roller coaster of emotions that tends to go through. Like, what's going to happen? What if nobody signs up and then I'm going to be in the hole? And it usually doesn't happen that way. I tend to be more of an anxious person. So I just, create these thoughts in my head for whatever reason to make it more exciting. I don't know. But I think...
Did you have a voice in your head that goes, Kamila, you suck. You're
Yeah, who doesn't, right? But definitely. I mean, it's, it pops up here and there, and, we just have to quiet it down or be like, oh my God, I know.
When you get those negative thoughts running through your head?
Well, I have a team around me. So, I think the biggest thing for just any successful person and, is to have people around you to support you. So whenever I have bad thoughts like that tell me to, stop trying and, I'm never going to be successful. I talk to my coaches, I talk to my, my mastermind, and it's basically like setting me straight. Like, no, these are just thoughts. These are not real. You've got it handled. Everything's going to be fine. And a lot of it is just having that support. And I think that's the biggest thing, because a lot of times entrepreneurs don't really have that for themselves. And I think that's so crucial, especially if your friends and family don't understand, which for most of us, that's kind of the case, So, yeah, so I think that's probably the biggest thing. And then also just being aware and being conscious of when thoughts like that come up, and being able to kind of be on the other side of that and rebutting them a little bit. So if a thought like that comes up, it's asking, well, is that really true? Is that really the case? Do you really suck? Like, what makes you say that? Let's show me the evidence, or show me the evidence of the contrary. And, we kind of start looking at it from that more logical perspective, because thoughts like that are very irrational, but they still feel very real. So it's, I think the best way to approach it is to be like truly logical with it. Like, well, yeah, but I have done this and this and this. Based on my experience, it seems like I'm not gonna fail. And even if I do, I'm not gonna die. Like, I'm still gonna be fine.
Sure.
I'm gonna find something else to do. Even if it's to move back with my parents, I'm not gonna be out in the street. There's always ways to kind of calm that voice down and keep going.
Well, Kamila, if we see you walking down the street and you're talking to yourself and there's no Bluetooth in your ear, we know what's going on. You're having a full-on competition with those voices.
Oh, man. Yep. Let's hope that doesn't happen.
Well, what would you say has been the most fulfilling moment on your entrepreneurial journey?
I mean, I think that going back to launching, I launch a lot of different programs. I have a mastermind. I have courses that I enroll for. And I think anytime that I'm able to hit my goal, it's a huge celebration moment for me, because, it's another, like, it's another ceiling that is broken. It's another way to show myself and show, the universe, I guess, that, I'm really putting in the work, and, I'm not giving up, and persistence pays off. So I think anytime that happens, it's been really great. And I think the other aspect too, I started doing live events last fall, and I've done 3 live events so far. I have another one coming up in June, and some other ones as well. And it's been really amazing doing live events, which is funny because I always self-identified as an introvert, which I guess I'm more of a combination. I'm more of an ambivert. So I actually love being with people. Yeah, it's like a person that is able to be introverted and extroverted depending on, I don't know what, just kind of goes back and forth. So that's me. And it's been incredible being able to host events and see on people's faces the transformation that they are able to get around their business and strategy and mindset kind of support. And it's been really amazing to be able to do that. And I think that was one of the biggest, I think, just like, pat myself on the back moments, because I never thought I'd be able to do that. So yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure it's almost, like a rush when you do those live events.
Yeah. It's been awesome. Definitely.
Well, that is very, very cool. Well, Kamila, you've been a great guest, and we're at the end of the show, but before we go, I want you to be able to tell the listeners where they can find your website and all the places you are on social media.
Awesome. I mean, the best way to check out what I have is I actually have a nice little training that you can check out. It's all about marketing systems. And it's basically KamilaGornia.com/Tim. So it's for anybody that doesn't know how to spell that, it's KamilaGornia.com/Tim. And yeah, I mean, I'm all on other social medias, but I think social media platforms. But I think the best way to really, contact me and kind of reach out to me is through going to that link, and everything else will be kind of right there.
Awesome. That is great. Well, thank you very much for your time, and I'll be sure to continue to follow you on your journey.
Thank you. Likewise. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Take care.
Want more entrepreneurial tips? Go to timlaskus.com.